Good morning, welcome back for another week. It is Monday, May the 5th. We're overcast. We had a little bit of rain last night. I'm up here by Barron's right now. We had about 1/4 of an inch of rain last night in a thunderstorm. So we are seeing a little bit of water on some of the plants. And this will no doubt help a lot of this dryland canola to set and fill pods. We're also supposed to be cooler for today, tomorrow, with highs in the low 20s. So that is really going to help with flower pollination and pod set. Compared to the heat blast we have been getting with this 35 degrees last week. But it won't last for long. Once this overcast clears off, we're expected to get up well into the 30s again for the rest of this week. So it'd be nice if we could catch a few more of these pop-up thunderstorms, get a little bit more rain. This rain will no doubt help this canola, but I'm afraid it's too little too late for most of the dryland cereals. Well, the dryland yellow peas are pretty much finished flowering now. You can see there was a few flowers here a few days ago, but there's pretty much almost nothing for open flowers now. Pods are setting pretty good. Some of them are pretty decent, but they are pretty short and thin compared to what we saw last year. Well, here along the edge of this barley field, and this patch of Canada thistle is just absolutely loaded with little tiny nymph grasshoppers here. Most of these guys are only about 1/4 of an inch. Some of them approaching 1/2 an inch. So these guys are going to be moving into this barley here and starting to feed on here. And you can already see where they have been in here. So, but unfortunately, there's not a whole lot in this barley to save. But we might have to do the edges of this field with coragen if we want to keep what's left. Well, the winter wheat is sure looking good this week. You know, we got some nice big healthy heads in here. They're starting to fill out pretty good now. So these guys are basically into milk stage here. And over the next couple weeks, starches are going to build up in here. And yeah, looking good so far. Well, some of these ditches are getting completely full of grasshoppers now. You can see the feeding damage on these leaves. Kind of a mix of grasshopper sizes and types in here. But these guys starting to move into some of this barley here. So we'll have to get some of these corners sprayed with coragen, get these grasshoppers under control. Well, it was so hot last week, it even killed some of the wild oats. You can see on this panicle here, the very top is completely dead. These are totally empty. There's nothing there. These bottom ones are still green. I don't even think these have flowered yet. So they might potentially still set seed in the next few days here. But yeah, kind of interesting to see that. And you can kind of see it throughout this patch here. We have wild oats here and there with the tips just totally torched. The durum, it looks a little bit better at least, but not by much. Well, one thing that always blows me away about kochia is how different it can be from one area to the other. And in this case, in this lentil field, these two kochias were side by side. And you can see this one, we got really big, fuzzy, fat leaves and a red color to the stem. This one here is much finer leaves, lots of small leaves, yellow flowers, and totally different appearance really, but they are definitely both kochia. Well, here along the edge of this lentil field, there's a very high population of grasshoppers. They're totally chewing everything out of this ditch here. And they're not really going too far into the field yet, but you can see some feeding damage on these lentils right at the very edge. And there is some pod feeding, so we're gonna have to spray along the edge of this field here. They don't go very far in, only about 10-15 yards here at the moment, but better take care of them before they wreck what could actually be a decent dryland crop. Right along the edge of this canola field, these grasshoppers are pretty intense. They're coming out of this dry ditch here and they are just eating absolutely everything. So this canola has been completely stripped down to basically just a skeleton. They've only moved in a few feet so far, but they're just rapidly stripping those leaves off. And what they're not taking, we seem to have a breeding swarm of blister beetles here along the edge. So that's these little black guys you see right here. Don't handle them. They can give you blisters, hence the name. And they are eating on the flowers and the flower buds. So we're gonna have to spray the edge of this field with coragen. Coragen is gonna give you some pretty long-lasting control for chewing insects. So that's what we're gonna have to use here. These grasshoppers just won't quit today. Everywhere I go, it's grasshoppers. Better start buying stock in FMC because I think we're gonna be using a lot of coragen here. Well, we did finally manage to get a little bit of rain last night, somewhere just under an inch of rain. And for some fields like this one, this durum, this is hopefully going to help these heads to set some kernels and to fill out. But if we get another week of 30+ degrees Celsius, an inch of rain sure ain't gonna help us for very long. Well, here's a nice field of irrigated barley. We did hit this a couple weeks ago with Modus and Trivapro, so it is nice and healthy, very minimal disease, and it's standing very, very well. There's no lodging in the field at all, so that is great to see. Here we have a little bit of lodging in an irrigated wheat field after last night's 1 inch of rain. It's not down very much. It's certainly not kinked off, so I imagine this will probably be standing up within a couple days. Well, with how a lot of these dryland peas are looking right now, we're pretty much finished flowering. The last couple pods are being set, and the overall appearance of the field is just starting to change a little bit. I think we're a lot closer to combining than we'd like to be. Last year, a lot of these dryland peas in this area came off the first week of August. I wouldn't be surprised at all if combining on some of these guys starts in 2 weeks. Well, the safflower is doing really good and developing really well this week. It is now up to knee height, and you can see it has done further branching and is getting ready to produce flower buds. Slow moving traffic on the pivot road today. Whole group of little baby killdeer. Well, we should probably talk about grasshopper thresholds, and they're usually established at about 5 grasshoppers per square meter in wheat would cause 20 to 25% yield loss. So how do you do that? Well, in my case, I hold my hands out, at about 3 feet width apart. My stride is about 1 meter, so with every step I take, if there's 5 grasshoppers moving between my hands, it's probably time to spray. And I know they're pretty small here, but there is quite a few here. I would say we're probably just under threshold, but that's generally how it is. In some fields, it's bad enough that there's literally 100 per square meter. Well, the lentils down by McGrath are looking pretty good. We're pretty much finished flowering now. Pods are setting and starting to fill. Overall, field's looking not too bad, but somebody has done something really strange in this field. There's some what looks like writing almost down the edge of the field with, like somebody did it with like a backpack sprayer or something. But from the ground, you can't really tell what it is. So I'm gonna fly the drone and we'll see what she looks like. Well, this corn by Lethbridge is looking spectacular now. It was barely knee tall last week, and now it's up past my hips. So we're doing very good here, mostly V8-ish. And this one here is starting to grow a couple tillers, but still looking very good. I have high hopes for this field. Well, here's some barley that's still in the boot and has been for about 3 weeks now. So this field is pretty heavily drought stressed, but not the worst I've seen. But this barley is just absolutely refusing to leave the boot. It is just starting to fill in milk stage, and hopefully with the ½ inch of moisture that fell in the thunderstorm here earlier this week, it will have a chance to fill these heads out, I hope. Well, here I sectioned the corn plants. You can see where the nodes are here, and you can see compared to last week, the nodes have really separated. It's growing pretty rapidly. So here's the top node right now, and up above it here is the tassel. Last week that tassel was barely ½ an inch long, so it has really developed really quickly. So we're going to see tassel emergence here before we know it. Well, here by Carmen Gay, some of these wetter areas with ditches, there is just huge flushes of grasshoppers in here now. Don't seem to be affecting the crop too much yet. They haven't really moved out of these grassy areas, but if the grass does dry up before the crop, then we are definitely going to have a problem. Well, now that the barley's getting a little bit bigger, we are starting to find some smut here and there. You pretty much always see this in just about every field you wander it long enough. You're going to find a couple heads. Our seed treatments these days pretty good at treating and preventing for it, but you always end up with a few. Well, here's the freshly seeded oats from last week. You can see they are just coming up quite nicely, but so is a whole pile of volunteer canola. So right now the oats are still too small to spray anything on other than Infinity. So we're going to probably wait until next week or so and use Enforcer M from New Farm. Take care of the pigweeds, the kochias, and the canolas. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe, and we'll see you next week.